Hey, this is Peter out in Chicago. I'm replying to the caller, Chris from Colorado Springs.
Hey, Jay, what's going on? It's Chris from Colorado Springs.
Who made a lot of good points, but then he started to go into how rape jokes are off limits and we shouldn't say them. First, he summarizes the part of the counter-argument against him by literally saying, oh, free speech, in this mocking and dismissive tone.
Yeah, there's free speech. Common comedians can say what they want, but it's like, hey, what kind of message is you as an artist, as a comedian, are you really trying to convey out there? And the last thing we want to do is be condoning rape culture or rape or sexual assault in any way at all.
As if it is not relevant to this discussion, which it very much is. Because if you are assuming, he's assuming that his own personal sensitivities are much more important than a comedian or any entertainer's right to perform without being bullied into silence by very sensitive people. I mean, how presumptuous is it that because you yourself are offended by a person's performance, that person should not perform that performance? What that person created is offensive to me and therefore should not exist. Well, why? Because you were offended? Well, so what? Nothing happens when you're offended. Nobody says, I was hospitalized for a week because I was just so offended. So what? What makes you think you are entitled to go through a world of 6 to 7 billion other people without ever being offended? If you don't like a comedian's jokes or if you don't like what they talk about, then don't support them. If you think rape jokes are offensive, don't tell them. I don't like most rape jokes myself. The caller makes the argument that it might make a rapist in the audience feel good about the rape, like, oh, it's okay, this is actually something funny to do.
Because although you might think you're making light of it, what you're really doing is if there's other men in that audience, and we know the statistics, right? Chances are, for any given comic, there's probably at least 1 or 2 rapists in that. The joke, making fun of it, is actually making them feel better about what they did. Oh, yeah, ha-ha, it's funny what I did. It's not as serious what I did.
That, setting aside how ridiculous that is, I mean, even the woman receiving all the disgusting online threats that he references agrees that, we all agree that rape is bad. Like, we all think that. Nobody wants to be called a rapist. So, that aside, how is that argument that it might make a rapist feel good any different from Wayne LaPierre's insistence that violent video games cause mass shootings? Some murderer might play a video game and say, hey, this is okay, this is entertainment, and they'll go out and perpetuate murder culture. I mean, you get how asinine that argument is. That's exactly the same line of logic that he's using. Ultimately, this isn't about rape jokes in particular, but more generally about where do you draw the line if rape jokes are too far? You know, I mean, the whole point of humor is to make the painful and chaotic things about our lives okay for just a little bit. It helps us deal with them. We're the only animal that laughs, and it's because we're the only one that tries to make sense of a world that doesn't make any sense. If we didn't have humor, I really believe we would literally go crazy and we would not survive. The world is too weird and painful and chaotic at times for a mammal with the proclivity to make sense of the world to survive without evolving the ability to laugh. Now, I'm a comedian, as you might have guessed, and my first stand-up set was about my own suicide attempt, and it killed. There was lots of laughter, applause breaks. People actually really loved it. There was a very positive response. Do you think that somebody in the audience is going to go out and kill themselves now? No, that would be ridiculous to believe that. Humor has the power to take our greatest fears and pains and make them okay. That is why it exists. Saying that something is too painful to be joked about is like saying there is a disease that is too serious to be treated. And that's all I got. Thanks. And love the show.
All right, rape jokes, let's do it. So to start off, everything I'm about to say about comedy is based on this foundation, that good comedy is about targeting the powerful and defending the powerless or the victimized or the oppressed. And if you do the reverse of that, not only is it not going to be funny and you're going to create a really uncomfortable situation with most people, you're also probably an asshole. And if you have people who laugh at jokes like that, then you know that they are assholes. So that's my basis. First point beyond that, I just want to make clear that freedom of speech literally has nothing to do with comedy. The idea of freedom of speech in America has to do with the government not being allowed to oppress people's speech. It has nothing to do with one person telling a bad joke and another person saying, that was a terrible joke, you should stop that. That's not silencing someone. That's not taking away their free speech, even a little bit. It's the two issues are not connected. And then finally, I've actually argued with listeners of mine defending the idea that there is no topic in comedy that should be off limits, including rape. The key point being, assuming that the joke in question doesn't make the victim of rape also the victim of the joke as well. Rather than me go on, I'm going to let Lindy West, the feminist blogger in question, make this point herself. She wrote it out and does a better job than I would off the cuff. So in Lindy West's post in response to Daniel Tosh's rape joke controversy on stage, he said that a female audience member who said something to him, from the audience, said that wouldn't it be funny if a bunch of guys came in here and raped her right now, which isn't funny. So this is Lindy's post, excerpts from her post on that subject, and she says, "At this point, the conversation has devolved into two polarized camps. Outraged feminists arguing that, quote, rape jokes are never funny, unquote, and defensive comics wailing about how the, quote, thought police is, quote, silencing them. Here's the problem. Everybody is wrong. I actually agree with Daniel Tosh's sentiment in his shitty backpedaling tweet, quote, the point I was making before I was heckled is there are awful things in the world, but you can still make jokes about them. Hashtag dead babies, unquote. The world is full of terrible things, including rape, and it is okay to joke about them. But the best comics use their art to call bullshit on those terrible parts of life and make them better, not worse. The key, unless you want to be called a garbage-flavored dick on the internet by me and other humans with souls and brains, is to be a responsible person when you construct your jokes." And then this is actually skipping ahead to her next article that followed up on this after she went on television and debated, and then, thousands of people basically threatened to rape her or said that she should be killed and so on. I played a lot of those in a previous episode. And so the comedian she was debating is Jim Norton. And in this part of her article, she is referring to how Jim Norton was arguing that comedians joke about different issues because it's a, quote, release of tension for people uncomfortable with those issues. It's, quote, catharsis. No subject should ever be, quote, off limits, and comedians shouldn't be, quote, silenced. And anyway, language doesn't affect culture, so how could rape jokes have an effect on actual rape? Rape is illegal. Everybody hates rape. Well, that's the fundamental disconnect between us. I believe that the way we speak about things and the type of media we consume profoundly influences how we think about the world. Let me be clear. I don't believe that previously non-raping audience members are going to take to the streets in a rape mob after hearing one rape joke. That's an absurd and insulting mischaracterization. But I do believe that comedy's current permissiveness around cavalier, cruel, victim-targeting rape jokes contributes, not causes, a culture of young men who don't understand what it means to take this stuff seriously. Then at the bottom, a fellow blogger of hers commented on this post, and she says, "Holy fucking shit, Lindy, I'm so sorry this is happening to you," referring to all of the rape threats that she had gotten. "Luckily, I don't think the men who made those comments are aware of the vagina's location. So, if any of them actually tried to follow through on a rape threat, you'd have time to run away while they were all, 'Where's the sex hole?'" And then the following commenter said, "Ha ha ha, and that was a funny rape joke." And so, of course, everyone has different tastes in comedy. You don't have to agree that what I just read was actually a funny rape joke, but what you do have to agree on is that the victim of that joke was not the victim of rape, but rather the potential rapist. And in this power dynamic, the rapist is the powerful, the rape victim obviously is the victim. So a rape joke can exist, it can be funny, as long as it's targeted at the right person. And so when it comes to constructing a rape joke, that's all a reasonable person can really ask for, I think. And now, if you don't mind me just going on a little longer, this has all been talking about rape jokes, but a person who thinks that no rape joke can ever be funny, someone in that frame of mind could also potentially think that it is impossible. Now, excuse me for not censoring myself because I don't see the point. A person in that mindset could similarly think that there is no joke that could ever possibly be funny in which a black person is unironically referred to as a nigger. The worst possible word you can say in the English American language. There's nothing worse you can call someone. How could it be conceivable that there could be a joke structured around calling a person that word and for it to actually be funny? Well, it just so happens that a regular on the show, Elon James White, host of This Week in Blackness, has such a joke. And so I'll play it for you now. So, think about it. Figure out why this isn't offensive. See if you can see who the victim is, who the target of the joke is. And I'll give you one hint. It's not the black guy he's talking to.
I got yelled at recently for using the word nigger in a conversation. I was yelled at about this. And I am, hello, Negro. I know how to use the word, okay? I use the word properly, people. Come on. I use it with hate. Okay, that's how I used it, okay? I know how to use it. I wasn't like, what up, nigga? I was like, you fucking nigger. Like, that's how I said it, okay? I was serious when I said it. I had like a white hoodie on. It was up. I was serious when I said it, okay? I was by a tree. There was rope. I was serious when I said it. And I'll tell you why I said it. I have no problem telling you why. I was invited to an open bar party, okay? I invited two of my friends to the open bar party. One of my friends then steals 2 bottles of wine from the open bar party. How doth one stealeth free shit? Seriously, and he called me the next morning proud of himself. He was like, I stole 2 bottles of wine. I was like, you fucking nigger. Like, that's what happened. It rolled off my tongue like I had been practicing, you know what I mean? Like seriously. And like, I understand that some people take great offense. It like offends their sensibilities. I shouldn't be able to say that. But you know what? I said it. Fuck you. I said it. That's just the way it is, okay? Fact is, black guys stealing completely and totally unnecessarily, I might call a nigger. I'm sorry if that upsets you, okay? White guys stealing completely, totally unnecessarily, I would call CEO.
So there you go. I'll leave each of you to exercise your own critical thinking skills to parse out exactly who is the target or the victim of that joke, the answer of which will explain why that's not really an offensive joke, even though it may sound like it is. And then my last point on this is to all comedians, of course the one who called in included, it's time to stop saying these two things simultaneously. First of all, comedy is the cornerstone of humanity. It's how we deal with the world around us. The world is crazy and we have to laugh at it. And so that's what comedy's for. It's a sacred institution and it doesn't affect how we see the world, act, or think at all. You cannot have it both ways. I think that comedy is an incredibly important thing, and I absolutely think that it changes the way we think about the world, feel about the world, and interact with the world, and that's why it's so important.